All right, good day, hi, and welcome. I know my room's extremely messy, but before we get into this, I got a mosquito biting my arm, but I'm just going to do something here. Yeah, I like this thing. I like this thing a lot. Okay. This instrument, I own it, right? This bow, I own it. And when I had the money to buy them, I bought them. I can't remember what I paid for this bow. It was under $200. Not a bad bow, not bad. So this video isn't really about that. This guitar pick, I own it. Yeah. This mandolin, I own too. Pretty cool. It took me a long time to acquire all these instruments. I got a whole bunch of guitars and violins. Well, ukulele, I own it. Wah-wah pedal, I own it. AB box, guitars. You get all that stuff. There's like 6 violins in this room. 4 guitars. 4 guitars? Yeah, 4 guitars. A ukulele and a mandolin and a fake saxophone. And a few other things in here. The thing is that I didn't get these overnight. And I worked very hard for them. And I've had them for a long time. And I didn't buy them when I didn't know what I was doing. Like I bought the, like in the sense of how to play. I mean, I didn't start off with, instruments like this or even like that when I started. I started off with much lower grade instruments, right? So what happens when you want to play an instrument, but you don't have a lot of money and you don't want to break the bank trying to learn? Well, an option and something I might be doing hopefully fairly soon. I need a couple more days work to do this, but is rent a cello. I want to rent a cello. I've always wanted a cello or a double bass. I think I'm going to go with the cello first because I don't know where the hell I'm going to put a double bass in here. I don't know if it's only 6'3" under the ceiling here. It's not a standard ceiling, so it's kind of like, I don't know what I would do with a double bass in here, really. I don't think I could fit one in. So cello it is, right? And I could rent a cello, probably a student quality cello, for about $40 a month. And I can even rent it for a day for like 10 or 12 bucks, or I can rent it for a week for maybe 20 bucks or whatever it is. So I'll just, put the $40 in and I'm going to rent it, provided they still have it in stock. And that's an option. For people that might not be, I mean, you might not be able to afford lessons, but you want to see if you can pick something out yourself, right? So you can rent guitars, you can rent, renting is an option, mandolins, violins, you name it. You're probably going to rent a better instrument than your starting instrument's going to be anyway. A lot of student violins and mandolins and guitars are usually playable instruments. They might not be, as nice as something like this, but they're usually playable instruments, right? And because of that, you're going to start on an instrument that's probably better than what you could afford anyway, if you're on a tight budget. But on top of that, say you spent $40, or maybe you get lucky and you buy a used guitar for $40. Okay, fine. And it's playable and you get lucky. But more than likely, you're probably better off to get something that's designed for the student in mind. Because, again, it's going to be playable. It's going to do all the things you need it to do. And you're not stuck with it forever. So maybe after 2 months, you say, okay, I've been playing this thing for 2 months. I'm really catching on to it. I like it. It's now to start doing an investment. Your first instrument shouldn't be super, super expensive anyway, price-wise. Quality-wise, buy the best you can afford, but price doesn't always dictate quality. And when you're a novice, you don't know this, and you don't even know what to look for. And even if you get a professional or somebody to pick out the instrument for you, a lot of times they pick out an instrument that you will outgrow and say, well, I liked it for what it was, but I would have, once you start knowing what you want out of an instrument, then it's like, well, you would never have picked the same starting instrument. You'd probably pick something else. And that just kind of is what it is. So the thing is your first instrument, a lot of time, you're probably going to ditch it for something different or something better or whatever. Ranged it a little bit. Because you don't know. But you got to start somewhere, right? So rental, I think, is a great idea for people. especially if you are already like somebody like me who's already a musician. I play several different instruments, but I can't just go out and afford to buy every instrument that's on the planet. I wish I could, but I can't. Maybe I'll win the lottery someday and I'll be able to have two of everything, right? I'll call it Noah's Instruments. I don't know, whatever. But you get the idea that even if like for example, a beginning cello starts off at like $1,300. That's the bottom price. Now, mind you, these are Canadian dollars because I'm up here in Canada. Violins, you can get them for about $100, but they barely play. Trust me. I've done the cheap violin route or inexpensive violin route. Like you're better off to get something set up, spend a little more on it, and you're going to spend the same money anyway. You know what I mean? Like you could always rent a better instrument at a later date. And if you don't have a lot of money, yes, renting at some point, yeah, you get law of diminishing returns. Let's say this was a Yamaha VL100, one of the most popular student violins out there. It's built to a standard. No matter where you go, if you have a VL100, it's the starting instrument. I can pick up 1,000 of those things, and they'll almost all play exactly the same. They'll almost be set up such a way that there's no inconsistencies in them, which is very impressive considering the uniqueness from one violin to the other. So they're very, very, very focused on a uniformed, everybody learning from the same page kind of instrument, right? And you can find one for $100 or $120 or something like that, not set up, and good luck getting sound out of it. Or you can buy one for $400 and it's set up by a luthier. The tuning pegs hold tuning. You got better strings on there than the factory would normally throw on there. The bridge is properly set to the proper height. All that, and yeah, it's more expensive. But maybe you don't have $400, but maybe $20 a month or $30 a month. Okay, that's fine. But after a year or whatever, you've paid for that violin. So either A, bring it back and upgrade to something else, rent something else, or B, just bring it back, cut the money loss. And some places, like the place I'm going to be probably renting from is Long and McQuaid, what they do is any money you put towards a rented instrument, you can, if you go to buy that instrument at the end of the month or at the end of the year, they'll knock that off the price. So maybe you say, okay, well, can I take from what I rented from that and put it towards this one if I like this one? So maybe you rent it and say, okay, well, I rented it. Maybe you work out a deal like that. Maybe you can't, whatever. Check the details for yourself. But that's a great option, And it's you say, well, why wouldn't you just do monthly payments? Well, that's the thing with a starting instrument. You might not like that instrument for very long. It's like once you start to really catch on to it, you're going to want to upgrade. If you want to go to something like this, you're probably not going to be able to rent it. You know what I mean? You're not going to find anything like this to rent. Unless it's, and if you do, chances are they're going to probably, because of the uniqueness. I would never rent this instrument out, and if I did, I'd be charging you so much you would be turned off by it, just because it's unique, right? And people do that, but these are usually people that are going to the NAC, National Arts Council or whatever, and they're renting like $20,000 instruments for like $1,000 a month or $300 a month or whatever it is, but they rent these instruments like say for 6 months. Right, but they're making money every night or every other night with it, so it's a tool at that point. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the person, they want to get into an instrument, whatever it is. And a ukulele is a very cheap option. You can't really rent a ukulele because they're so cheap. But like instruments that are a little more expensive, to get into a good one, again, you can rent a good starter instrument, and with that good starter instrument, then you'll figure out what you actually want to buy after. So you'll actually save money in some sort of ways. So let's say you rent a violin for 2 months and you're like, okay, I can't play this thing at all. You take maybe a couple of lessons, you're like, I still can't play this thing. I give up. Well, you've lost $80, or $40 or whatever. Not a big loss, plus maybe your lesson's like $60 or whatever. $20, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But it's cheaper than losing the whole cost of an entire instrument, right? So if you're not going to stick with it, so that's another option. Now, if you are going to stick with it, then you're going to have to invest at some point. And the best way to invest is to work your way up. A lot of celloists, that's what they do. They start off with a cheap cello, and I'll just finish up with this. And it could be not just cellos, but it could be any instrument. They'll start off with a cheaper one, and then what they'll do is they'll flog the old one, or buy a new one, flog the old one, and then just keep, leapfrog upgrading. Okay, I've saved up this much money this year, so I could sell that, and the money I get with that, I would then, let's say I sold, not that I would sell this violin, but let's say I sold this violin for about half of what I bought it for, but I was able to save up double what I paid for it. Now I can go into the next bracket. And then let's say I do it again, and, okay, maybe don't take a 50% loss on everything, but you can upgrade that way. It takes time, but it is a way to do it. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. So it's a conversation to have. So anyway, make sure you hit that like button. Tell me what your experiences of renting stuff. I'll be doing that, and I'll let you guys know when I'm able to do that. Probably be next month, probably from the making of this video. So it'll be in July sometime. So maybe you don't see this video till July, but when I get it, I do have plans to. I'm still trying to book gigs everywhere and all that stuff. So there's a little bit of stuff I got to get done there too. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. So make sure you hit the like button and and subscribe and comment, and have yourself a great day.